So I want to talk more in depth about that, right? The challenges to reporting. One important thing is that we have these stereotypical images, right, of what a perpetrator looks like and what a victim looks like, right? And it's important to come back to that root of sexual assault survivors are human, right? They're not perfect. There's not one perfect, correct way to react to this incident, right? There's not one perfect, correct, and accurate way to report it or to have to react a certain way, right? Justice is defined differently, right, by all survivors, right? So it's up to them to decide what it is that they want to do, right? What they're comfortable with. They're not perfect. There's not one accurate, one perfect way to do it, right? It's what they're comfortable with for their own healing, right, and for their own definition of justice, right? So it's being able to remember that this is up to the survivor to have that choice, right, of what it is that they want to do, right? If they want to report it, if they want to go to counseling, if they don't want to do that, right? Survivors may change, they may deny or omit aspects of the rape because they don't think that they will be believed by authorities, right? So challenges to reporting, right, is saying, why would I even come forward about this if no one's going to believe me, right? If all we see in the media and all we see in the news, right, and these statistics, who's going to believe me, right?
There's a lot of law enforcement, both local and just all over, that really don't have that much training in knowing how to respond to sexual assault victims.
Mm-hmm.
They just really don't really have a clue of how to interview them or, get investigative information from them.
Yeah, using that trauma-informed language, right, to be able to ask questions in a certain way or to provide certain services. No, and absolutely. And I mean, it's kind of tough, right? That's a big one to tackle. We do our best at the Crisis Center, to provide these free trainings and workshops. And it's whoever will have us in that space. But I totally get where you're coming from, right? It's big. It's not just local, right? There's a lot of aspects to law enforcement that have that reaction, right? And that's why I want to encourage you as a community member, right, to be able to be trauma-informed and to be able to be cognizant of that. And when you do create those safe spaces, using that language and saying, I understand that this may have been a reaction that you had gotten and how it worked out that way, but I believe you, right, and I want to be able to help you, and you can talk to me about this.
Usually the people on the scene are the law enforcement investigators. They don't usually have the victim. They usually have the victim witness counselors or something with the law enforcement, but they don't always go out every single call.
To have that person there who does know how, right, like that client advocate, right, absolutely. Victim blaming and shaming from peers, right, so that's another challenge, is thinking, well, they're just going to shame me. They're going to ask me all these questions about why I went or what I was wearing or why I did certain things a certain way, right? So being afraid that that's going to be the response, because that is prevalent, right? That is commonly what is seen and heard, right? We talked about, right, where we learn these messages from Law and Order and CSI and all these TV programs that start to change the perspective, right, of the community, of what it should look like, of what perpetrators look like, et cetera. And then this little infographic here about, this little graphic about it being these gears, right, these different components of your life that are being affected, right? So economically, emotionally, socially, right? So it's not just that stereotypical image, right, of that message that we hear of it being violent or physical or having evidence of it, right, like bruises or bleeding or anything like that. It could also be this coercive manipulation affecting different parts of their lives, right? So economically, if a survivor, right, was assaulted by someone that they work with, right, what options and services do they have access to be able to get themselves out of that situation? Or maybe they don't, right? If they don't report, if they don't outcry, or be able to report, because that challenge is there, right? Like, I work with this person. What if that person is their boss, right? Will there be retaliation? Or what if this is someone that they go to school with? It's in their classroom, right? And having to see this person every day, right? And not being able to report it because what is everyone going to think in the class? Is she going to be shamed? Are they going to be blamed? Are they even aware of the services available? right, on the campus of who they can report to. And it,
That was the number one factor for teens, that they do not report because of social acceptance. They don't want to be known as a snitch. And other people bully them for actually coming out. That things have happened to them on campus. But I have seen the majority
Yeah.
of my clients.
yeah, and that's a huge challenge, right? That social stigma of it too, of being not wanting, not just being that person that outcries or reports it, but being that bystander, right? Like being that snitch of, well, I'm gonna tell on someone because of something that I heard, right? Or witnessing an event and being afraid to speak up about it, right? Because of the social circles. What are they gonna think? What are they gonna believe? Now I'm gonna be blamed for it, or right? Okay, so for this final activity that I have for y'all here, I'm just going to read out some characterizations, right, of an individual, and I want y'all to be able to tell me and have that conversation about why they might experience difficulties, right, reporting, right. So for the first one here, let's talk about if the victim is a senior citizen. What types of challenges might they encounter in reporting?
Fear. Fear of the person coming back or retaliation of some sort.
Okay, absolutely. Retaliation. No one's going to believe that.
Ridiculous as well, because we usually do not associate sexuality and other age.
Absolutely. What other challenges might they face? Financial. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Having that, what if they don't have that, right? Of the finance to be able to seek out those services, right? Or fearing that retaliation of what if this is someone who's taking care of them, right? What if this is someone, what if the perpetrator is younger, right, than them? And it goes back to the vulnerability, right, that we talked about, vulnerable populations, right? What if the victim is experiencing homelessness? What types of challenges might they face?
Is experiencing what?
Homelessness? They're homeless? Yeah.
Nowhere to go.
Okay.
They know where to begin.
Maybe not even having, right, that support system of who to even be able to talk to about this, of what happened to them. Right? What about them seeking?
An acceptance on their part. Just, this happened to me, but that's just the way it is.
That's just the way things are, right, in that area, okay. What about seeking services, right? Why would a person experiencing homelessness have trouble seeking services at agencies or at? Yeah, some type of documents or some types of proof that they might need, okay. What if the victim is undocumented? And I want to ask y'all then, what types of steps can we take to help them? Right? So if you know someone that is undocumented and they have outcried and want to report, do y'all have any suggestions of what it is that we could do to help them?
Connect them with an agency that helps them. Like I think Catholic Charities don't they still help?
We have immigration services, absolutely. Raíces, okay. Yeah, so familiarizing yourself with local agencies that provide those very specific, right, those tailored needs, then it can meet that, right? And so that's also part of our role in the community, right, is being aware of these agencies, right? We all don't just live these neutral lives, right, where nothing is happening around us and we don't know. No, it's going out there and taking that initiative to familiarize yourself with what services the Rape Crisis Center offers. That way if someone needs something, and you're like, you know what, you can call the hotline, right? And maybe they can direct you somewhere. Google it, right? Search for some agencies in your area and familiarize yourself with them.
Did you get every other information? I'm sure you would get that too.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Having those hotline numbers.
Question about your agency, is there a lot of counselors that are available that are bilingual?
We do have some, yes. So we try our best to have them on site, and we currently do have a couple that are bilingual. Yeah, so they do speak Spanish, right, with our clients, and be able to refer them to agencies that also have bilingual staff. Mm-hmm. I want to ask you about this one. What if the victim is a runaway youth? A runaway youth, what types of challenges might they face?
Fear and
A lot of them, if they run away, I mean, from what trainings that I've gone to, if they run away and they've encountered situations like this or experienced anything like that, even similar events like human trafficking, they're embarrassed to go home, they're afraid their parents aren't going to want them, the blame, and with their youth, they're going through a lot of emotional, they're still going through the developmental stage.
In that stage of their life.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, if they experience that, a normal teenager experiences that, when someone experiences that, it's even worse, or they feel like they're worthless. If they're running away, there's a reason that they're running away for, so there might be issues at home.
Or feeling like that they have no voice in it, right? I'm just a child, right? Or thinking those things that they don't have a voice or the right to speak up about it. So what are some suggestions that y'all have then? How do we help, a survivor who is a runaway youth? And sometimes it's as simple as that, right? And that's why I talk about the believing part of it, right? Of just simply saying, I believe you, right? Being able to be that person that they can talk to, and then being that bridge to services, right? But it takes some responsibility on your end, right? Familiarizing yourself with what services and agencies are out there to be able to connect them to that.
you have to build that relationship and trust.
Yeah, and sometimes and it's not that easy, right?
Exactly.
There's those barriers too of being able to have that rapport and for them to feel comfortable enough, right? To even just report to you or even have to talk to you about anything about it. Some things to remember is that there is no one way for a survivor to act. They're not all female, right? We touched up on that. It's being cognizant of that. That sexual violence does not discriminate, right? They may not have any visible physical signs of sexual assault. Some of these effects can be long-lasting, right? It's something that will follow them through many stages of their life. The timeline of reports will vary. The ideas of justice will not always be the same for every survivor, and they live in the same world that you do, right? So always be cognizant of the things that are very prevalent in our community, right? They live here too, right? And they experience the same things on the TV, right? The messages that are being seen, these things are there, right? They're living in the same world. And it's being cognizant that there's not just one way to react to it, right? That we've all experienced seeing these things and we all have a different reaction to it, right? And something that I might believe is like the immediate response or the perfect response is not the same for others, right?
It's just having empathy. So a lot of us, I think a lot of us lose sight of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not understanding and using that empathetic touch
Yeah.
in situations like that.
And it comes with also being desensitized, right? Like you had mentioned earlier about it just being so common, right? And all these messages that we see that sometimes we tend to lose that sense of empathy, right? But again, taking that moment to reflect, right, on these different perspectives and values that you have and the different ways that your perspective changes throughout time, right? And being cognizant of that. The effects of sexual assault. Victims of sexual assault are 3 times more likely to suffer from depression, 4 times more likely to contemplate suicide, 6 times more likely to suffer from PTSD, 13 times more likely to abuse alcohol, and 26 times more likely to abuse drugs. So as a final recap here, because we're almost close to the ending time, just a final recap here, your response matters, right? So if I want you to take anything away from today, I know we discussed various components in our discussion, is to start by believing, right? It's as simple as the words, I believe you, right? Because a person, if a victim feels that they are believed, they are more likely to become engaged in criminal justice system, right? Because they're already used to these ideas, right, in the media and all these headlines and everything about it being normal and common to victim blame, right, or to not have those positive and healthy reactions, right? That's already so common. It's being that person that says, I believe you, right? And it makes such a huge difference, whether you're working with clients or when you're just out in the world, right, in these different spaces, is start by believing. You are human, okay? We don't expect you to have all the answers and to know how to react to every situation. But it's having that empathy. It's having that moment to say, hey, I'm going to create the safe space. We can talk about this, and I want to be able to help you if you are comfortable, right? Let me know how it is that I can help you, right? Be supportive and compassionate, right? It looks different for everybody, right? And just be cognizant of that. Your own perspective is not that perspective that they have. So check that out. Check that in that moment, right? And say, it's okay. Tell me, if you're comfortable, tell me your story, and we'll work from there with what you are comfortable with, right? Not with what I believe it should be done. And act as a bridge to additional resources and services, right? So familiarize yourself with local agencies, national hotlines, various organizations that work in different components of violence, right? And being able to connect clients, survivors, and friends and family to those services. And lastly, I just want to remind you to take care of yourself, right? Because working in this field, right, it does also weigh down on you, right? And I'm so proud of each and every one of you for the work that you're doing, right? It's incredible. But take that moment for yourself too, right? To be able to recuperate, to be able to re-energize. Because if you're not in that state, right, or in that position, it's not going to be very helpful either, right? So take that moment, have those safe spaces for yourself as well. To our community responsibility, right? So it's just summarizing all of our roles, right, in the community in these various spaces of continuing that conversation and familiarizing yourself with resources and believing the survivor and creating those safe and fostering healthier environments and taking that initiative, right, to be that person. Thank you for having me.